Hi everyone, welcome to this week's Football-Oranje podcast. This time we'll be discussing the Netherlands national team next potential manager, as well as lots to do with the Eredivisie, seeing as the title race is coming to a close, as well as a relegation battle at the bottom. And we've got the KNVB Cup final next weekend, AZ Vitesse. So lots to discuss. We're on SoundCloud, YouTube and iTunes, so you can listen to us there, download us on there. Make sure to give us a like and subscribe where you can. Enjoy it. PSV Ajax, what did you think?
I think Buzz didn't rotate. When Ajax started, Bertrand Traore was dead on his feet. The first two substitutions he made were Amin Younes and Traore, the guys that played the most on Thursday. And I think with Kluivert and Neres coming on, there was a little more zest and things like that. But PSV already 1-0 up. Ajax, Buzz should have rotated more, especially with the wide players. But I think this also doesn't mean the win also doesn't mean that PSV are in a better place than they were a week ago. Ramselaar's gone down with an injury. He's currently in individual training right now, and Locadia, he might not be the proper fix for the striker role, because there's a lot more development from him, because he had 5 shots in the whole game, only 1 on target, and that was just the free kick. So both Ajax, they're unlucky. They weren't unlucky. They were very naive to lose. Buzz should have rotated his players. Traore may have an injury now. When Ajax were moving the ball to him and looking to counter, he was a few yards slower, and it was obvious from the first minute. He didn't really have that zest to really go past players, and Buzz ended up having to make 2 substitutions. And when it came to really Ajax trying to enforce themselves on the game at the end, they could only bring on Donny van der Beek for Schöne, and that didn't really give them the extra creativity to go and look for another goal. While PSV, they won, but they could have played better. There's something not right with the team. There's a lot more things to do. The younger players should be given a chance. It would have been good to see Lammers play for longer. And Bergwijn and Ramselaar either side of Locadia, they looked sharp. Bergwijn ended up winning the free kick that led to the Locadia goal. They were quicker, but the PSV side still needs more in terms of how they're going to structure it, how quick they move the ball forward, and how creative they are in the final third, because your main striker only having 1 shot on target from a free kick the whole game, and basically having not many shots in the box. Most of the shots were from long range. So that it was a game where Ajax could, if they rotated nicely, could have won the game, but they didn't take advantage of the situation.
I agree. I think PSV were perhaps a little lucky to get the win. Ajax had plenty of chances. Had they put them away, I felt like another day it could easily have been an away win. But you saw, especially in the first half, but it carried on throughout the second as well, Ajax looked very tired. And they panicked because they knew they had to win the game. And when the free kick went in, it was panic stations. They knew that they wanted to get a goal as quick as they could to get the game to restore parity. But it wasn't to be. And it just looked like the end of the season for Ajax. I just hope now the 2 week gap, the 2 week break, will help them recuperate and they can really have a go for the Lyon game. Because they still have that sort of performance they were putting out before, but a lot of the passing was careless. I think Lasse Schöne, you saw in his positioning as well, different to the back four. It showed like he wasn't sharp, he wasn't focused on the game, and you see all these little things like that, and it all added up, and it ended up in a defeat. But yeah, I think with PSV, you saw a little more of the old PSV that you maybe noticed in the Champions League, where they weren't the most creative of teams, but what they did do was they defended resolutely. They also were pretty solid in midfield. Guardado, I thought, had a good game. And there were good bits and pieces you saw from those players, but still, I think if it was the other way around and PSV needs to win that match and Ajax didn't, I don't think PSV would have won it. I think it's one of those. The mentality came into it and Ajax panicked on the day. And I think that's because of their youth and their team. It came through.
I think the game against Schalke 2 days before took an awful lot out of them. And I also thought it was surprising after the match where Boss couldn't really bring himself to admit that played a role in not being able to get a positive result in Eindhoven. I think it's you could say pretty much done and dusted now, with Feyenoord only having to win one of their remaining 2 games, and especially with Excelsior away and Heracles at home. I would also agree with Michael, and you saw a little bit of the old PSV from the European exploits and the quality that they do have with Guardado and Amzala and other players that they have as well. It's disappointing for Ajax because now they can only. It looks as if they can only now go on to reach the Europa League final and possibly win it. But I personally think, I know it's still a bit premature with it being 2 weeks away, I still think that may well prove to be a bridge too far. I did have to think when they lost in Eindhoven about the difficulty they had at earlier on in the season when they lost to Willem II at home, and they also didn't get a positive result at home to Rowe. And these are teams that if you put them away and you put them away comprehensively, these points and that goal difference could end up being vital. And I think that's what's left Ajax a little bit short this season. I think it's as well as Bosz has done in his first season to reach the European semi-final. I think his inexperience in the turnover of such a high-profile European quarter-final and then 2 days later playing away to one of your biggest rivals, I think he still has to adjust and learn a little bit to that. But it's difficult for Ajax to accept. It's also disappointing for them, and it's very much looking like that Feyenoord will win their first title since 1999.
Yeah, I echo all you're saying. I think Ajax were just too tired to play that game, and Bosz didn't rotate enough. So I think the key men just weren't at the races. Ziyech was anonymous, and even Dolberg, he would have been the freshest out of everyone. I can't remember a single Dolberg chance in the whole game. He won a couple of free kicks, and then he got wasted. I was amazed that the 2 free kicks just outside the box that Lasse Schöne's record recently, he didn't take either of them. Ziyech wasted them both. These are little chances that Ajax had. The Neres one is the only other one that I can really remember when Zoet came running out of his goal inexplicably. But I think PSV were good. I actually enjoyed Locadia's performance. He had chances early on, but you actually saw him drift. The PSV front three, they never stayed where he should have. Like Locadia drifted out to the left constantly, great on the right. Bergwijn sometimes went through the middle, Ramselaar sometimes went through the middle, and even when Pereiro came on in the second half, he was mostly through the middle as well. I think that rotation confused Ajax back four at times. But overall in the game, I don't think it was that much of a spectacle. It's not one that's going to live down in much memory. PSV nicked it. Not very many other chances. You're looking at Joshua Bennett's run at the end. It was another bit of excitement, and afterwards onwards, most of the talk was about the Justin Kluivert-Locadia fight at the end. No, it wasn't that disappointing affair, and I think it's basically just handed Feyenoord the title. 2 games to go. I think Feyenoord win them both, and Ajax have to settle for second.
I personally think that that Cocu has been setting up his team to rotate more, especially when they're building up. He's played Van Hinkel out wide a bit so that he can come inside, and then his fullback can go past him. But the thing that really irked me was that when Locadia dropped out wide, they didn't really have anybody really going into the center. So if Locadia received the ball out wide, then PSV would have to take a few extra minutes till someone moved into the center and moved the ball around till someone moved into the center. So when Locadia went out wide, they couldn't play those direct balls into the box. That's why I think if you're playing Locadia up front, you have to sort of play Pereiro too out wide, because Pereiro is more adept at going through the middle and the more adept at switching positions. So Ramselaar and Bergwijn proved to be very good ball carriers when they moved into the deep central positions. They did things with the ball, and they brought that zest to the final third that Cocu has really been looking for this season. But this whole Ramselaar out wide thing, you hope it doesn't stick, and next season you get to see him play in the center with possibly Hendricks and someone else. So I'm still not convinced by PSV. I'm still not convinced by Locadia through the middle. And maybe I'm just being hard on them. I just rate them much higher than they are right now.
I think it has to say that it's looking like De Jong's future at PSV is coming to an end, because the second half you'd think that the captain would have been brought on to see out the game. And he actually went for Lammers, which we've been calling out for on this podcast for weeks, and he finally gave him some game time at the end, only a few minutes. But De Jong kept panning to him on the bench, looking a bit for long, and I think Cocu's literally just lost faith completely in him.
They said afterwards he was injured. I'm not sure how true that is, but he was in the individual training today. So the reports are saying that he was hurt.
His feelings were hurt, probably.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone's feelings are hurt with the sitters he's been missing this season.
I heard James mentioned about Peter Bosz the season as well. At the start of the season, that Ajax dropped points against Roda and Willem II at home, and they were what cost Ajax probably the title. And I was speaking to someone on Twitter about this, and they were saying that, is it considered a good season still if Ajax finished second, so miss out on the title, and only get to the semi-finals of the Europa League? I personally thought that was a harsh statement. But at the end of the day, his point was Ajax have won no silverware. What do you three make of that?
I think with the size of this club, I mean, before I first come to live in this country, I knew that Ajax was a really big club. When you get here, when you live in the city, with there only being one club here, you really do realise how the club is structured and how the way they play and the reputation they have, that it is absolutely mammoth, absolutely huge, where the expectation to win and to keep winning is always apparent. Even in the difficult years when they had Danny Blinderstein and Martin Jol and Henk ten Katen, the expectation, even though these managers back in those days were pretty much inexperienced, the expectation to win was still there. I think if Ajax do end up trophyless this season, it will be a massive disappointment for all involved. But should they reach the Europa League final in particular, they can take heart in the progression they've made on a European level, because that's been somewhat astonishing. Because as I mentioned on the last pod, I've seen many a European game live, and I've been here for a long time, and you never really thought that the club would push on in Europe as time goes on. If anything, you would have thought that Dutch clubs may be falling a little bit further behind, but they can take a lot of heart from that. And I'd just go back to my point just a second ago, that the expectation of the club is mammoth. And of course, should they not win anything, they will quite rightly be disappointed.
I can agree with you, having looked at as well the fact that Feyenoord are going to win the title, their main rivals. But you can't deny that Bosch has done a fantastic job in taking a very young team full of youth academy products, as is expected at Ajax. And they're within 4 points of a title at the moment. And it feels like the club have come a long way since the start of the season. People were already calling for Bosch's head when he was losing to Rostov, or getting thrashed by Rostov in the Champions League qualifiers. But it's gone on to become a very successful season. I think the development of the squad, that he's taken from Frank de Boer, which was quite frankly very poor, in my opinion, and changing the way that the team plays to what they are now, I think Bosch can take a lot of pride in that. And I think Ajax fans will be looking at next season thinking, this is when we will win something. This is when we will reach the Champions League proper through the qualifiers. But that's just my opinion. What do you think again?
I agree with James. I think there will be overriding disappointment, but no, at Feyenoord winning the title and not getting and not winning any silverware this season. But there won't be any considerable ire towards Bosz, because he's done a fantastic job, especially clearing a path for some of these players to come through. I mean, Bazo and Godel were big players last season. They played majority of the games, and to say to them that, look, we're gonna go with someone else, and we're gonna give more kids a chance. And 9 academy players have made their debut, and when you think about now Onana's in goal, he's had an exceptional first season. Dolberg also had an exceptional first season, and just some of the young players who, if some of the main starting lineup leaves, some young players are really primed to take over, and that the longer scheme is very important. And next season they should certainly be looking for the Eredivisie title. But this season, I think playing a lot of young players, giving them their starts, and getting to the Europa League semi-final and second place in the Eredivisie for first season, that would be good for Bosz.
Yeah, I think Ajax fans only need to look back to last year, and last year under Frank de Boer was a hard watch for me. I thought Ajax were very poor for most of the season, and the way they lost the title on the last day, that would have hurt a lot. I think it's been an improvement, and you need to look at the way he's bringing through youth talent and how he's restructured the squad, as Chaka said. I mean, Bazoer, Budelia, Milik left in the summer as well, and they replaced him with a kid in Dolberg, and it's working. And I think next year you'll see, if Ajax don't challenge for the title more, and if they get knocked out Europe early, then Bosz will come under pressure. But I think right now Bosz is doing a good job, and he's got next season to improve on it.
So do we all agree that Feyenoord are going with the title with 2 games to go?
100%.
Yeah, I would. I know I've been not in a sarcastic sense or in a awkward sense been proclaiming that Feyenoord would drop points, and they haven't done that. I will admit when it's far enough and when it's quite apparent that it's looking extremely likely. And for a club to celebrate their first title since 1999 for 18 years is something which is really invoking the whole of Rotterdam as a city, not just a club. And even people out on the streets. And I don't know if you saw the images of when the final supporters came to greet the team bus when it returned from Arnhem back on Sunday. But yeah, I think it's they've been topped most of the season final, and it is even now I'm based in Amsterdam, I do have to be professional about things and say that it is deserved, and it's highly likely they'll win their title for the first time in 18 years.
Yeah, they've been very workmanlike this season in the Rotterdam fashion, and they're already trying to tie down some pieces for next season. Basisikoğlu's been given a contract extension, and they're trying to get Vilena on another extension. So I think tying down those loose pieces will create a good platform for next season. They're certainly gonna win the title. They deserve it. They've been very. They've scored when they've needed to score, and there's times where I think they've outworked teams and outlasted teams, and they've done really well. And it's a feather in the cap of Giovanni Van Bronckhorst to win a title in his second season as the head coach, his second full season as the head coach. And next season, as it was for Coco after his title winning season, is a real task, because people say maintaining a title winning squad and maintaining that sort of competitiveness within the squad is harder than winning that first title. And seeing how he goes about it, how he changes things will be a very interesting subplot for next season. And also, Van Bronckhorst hasn't given the most young players their debuts and things like that. But, Velena, Karsdorp, and Newcoop now, who's been playing for the last few games, have really grown under Van Bronckhorst, and they've really come along nicely, and they're becoming mainstays in the Dutch national team picture. So that's very interesting to see. And it's Jorgensen is the signing of the season, top goal scorer, top assister, and they bought him on the cheap. Some people would balk at a 25, 26-year-old striker coming to the Eredivisie, but he's been brilliant. He's an all-rounder, and I think that will lift some of the pressure off Martin van Heel, who's been much maligned as the technical director of Feyenoord, because to pull that one off was fantastic. And Berghuis, who got them 2 goals against Peck a few weeks ago, 2 important goals that got them an important draw. Who was also loaned from Watford. It's turned out to be a great season for everyone involved, and I just hope that they can continue into next season.
I think that's the key issue for Feyenoord is what they're going to do in the summer, because Ajax are going to be very dedicated to the title next year, and PSV are going to be a new PSV. What Feyenoord are going to do? Are they going to have the money to spend? Are they going to give Van Bronckhorst an opportunity to invest in the squad, or are they going to lose players? Because you've got to think some teams will be looking at Jorgensen, some teams will be looking at Vilhena. Berghuis goes back to Watford. Elia, will he stay? El Amadi as well. He's been excellent this season. A few teams might have an eye on him. Botteghin might decide he wants to move away. Karsdorp's been linked to everyone. It's going to be a difficult job for them to prepare for next season if their squad does get picked apart by clubs in Europe. And they're not known for having the most money in the Eredivisie. So Van Heel might come under pressure again this summer if he doesn't invest.
I agree with you, Michael. But also, most of the players are aging, and I think the likes of Elia and Botteghin and El Amadi, they're likely to stay, seeing as they've they've already had their time abroad. Botahir not so much, but they will be tempted by the Champions League football. And Chaka's point about Van Heel, he's pulled it off with the likes of Jorgensen, Brad Jones as well. But also a player such as Van der Heyden. He came under pressure, Van Heel, for administering the signing of Van der Heyden initially from Vitesse for a free transfer. But this season, just look at the difference. Like he's become such an important defender for the team. And initially when he was put under pressure for that signing, now it's paying off, and you can see that some of these signings are very good. But he will come under pressure again this summer, as you say, because he needs to look at more countries. Because usually you see Feyenoord signing players from Scandinavia or just from within the Netherlands, but they need to look abroad. The likes of Ajax are looking at South America. Feyenoord don't have 12 million to spend, but they need to at least look around for these deals, as opposed to getting players on the cheap for free, because most of the time it doesn't work. And players just like Simon Gustafsson haven't played this season. I just wonder if he can pull off some better deals and look further abroad, maybe put a bit more money into scouting, because it's very narrow-minded from Feyenoord's scouting team.
Yeah, they've already been linked with a few players already. I mean, but it's players from the Netherlands. I mean, Yassine Ayoub's always been linked with Feyenoord. You did sign Amrabat as well from Utrecht. If you do have the money to spend, you do invest some Champions League money in the Jorgensen, then clubs like Utrecht, Feyenoord should be looking at some of their better players and try to pick some of them. Truppe as well, he could be another one if Karsdorp leaves that would replace him. But I do agree, I think they need to start looking abroad away from Scandinavia and to stronger players. Even they got Berghuis on loan from their Premier League. I mean, Champions League football they could probably try and cherry pick a few Premier League players that are maybe not on the fringes of the first team, just to bolster them for the Champions League, because it definitely needs strengthening if they're going to do anything in Europe.
And they also need to clear out some of the deadwood that they've signed in recent years. I mean, Vehinovic and Tapia have already played. Yari Skuman, who hasn't really been a regular at Willem II, but has scored a couple of goals there, is one of the most highly rated players coming through the academy. He's coming on 19, 20 years old. Maybe an opportunity to give him a chance. Someone like Calvin Verdonk also coming through at centre back, which will be a very congested position for Feyenoord with Sven van Beek returning next season. He also deserves an opportunity on loan at PEC this season. I feel Lucas Woudenberg, who was brilliant at
Nijmegen.
Nijmegen last season, also deserves a chance. Can play as a wing back, can play as a full back, and I think they need to give some of the youngsters a chance, because they have some good young talents, and I think what we've seen this season is the young players, especially the highly rated ones, are coming through. Talent are very talented, and they can be molded and developed into a higher level. Oh, and some news coming through: the Amsterdam Arena will be renamed the Johan Cruyff Arena.
A special moment on Cruyff's 70th birthday as well, so perfect time to announce it.
Definitely.
Yeah, there's been a lot of outcry from the fan groups for it to happen, and even Football International have just tweeted good news, and I think it's a nod to the history, to how much he loved the club, how much he wanted to be involved, how much he wanted to see it grow. He watched the youth games with a very analytical eye, and people could have seen him arrogant, but he just had a passion for the club that few other people had, and to have someone who really cared about the club as the name on the stadium is fantastic, and any player that comes through and plays in the red and white at the Johan Cruyff Arena should be proud.
I think the timing of it is very apt, and I think that's a very nice touch. From this end, they're claiming that an agreement has been reached by all parties for the name to be changed. So it's a great decision, especially for not just a player of Ajax, but a manager and an icon who represents so much which is good about the club and Dutch football in general. I mean, the man was a complete one-off. There will never be another one. And I just think it's been a long time coming, the decision, of course, but I'm pleased to hear that the news is finally broken and that they are going to change the name to Johan Cruyff Arena.
Yeah, true legend. Back to Eredivisie, we had 4 results this weekend that were crucial in the relegation battle. I think the 3-2 defeat for Go Ahead Eagles may see them finally relegated. But we had 3 other games that were very, very tight, all decided by only 1 goal. Ardo won away at Sparta. We had NEC lose at home to Excelsior. And Utrecht beat Roda, who are also struggling. Has this changed anyone's opinions on who's going down? We have, of course, Go Ahead Eagles at the bottom. But we also have NEC and Sparta looking up in the 2 relegation playoff places. Just above that, Roda and Excelsior. So what we're thinking there is that our opinions changed.
I think the current bottom 3 will stay as it is from now to the end of the season. I'd be extremely surprised if that was to change, especially with other teams maybe dropping in. I'm not surprised that Ardo managed to stay up. Even when it was extremely difficult, when they announced that Groenendaal would arrive, that people didn't think they would make it. I thought they did. The same goes for Excelsior Rotterdam. They only need 1 more point officially to be officially safe from relegation. It'll be very interesting to see what Nijmegen do in terms of the announcement of a new manager, because obviously they're sacking Peter Hibala yesterday and proclaiming that they will have a new manager in place within a week. The current manager of Rode JC, Anastasiou, was signed for Belgian side Kortrijk as of next season. So I think Go Ahead was evident for quite some time, and I possibly thought that it might have been Sparta and Roda. I mentioned on the pod possibly a couple of weeks ago maybe Sparta and Nijmegen, but I think the 3 it is now will be the 3 that it is at the end of the season, and I can't see that changing at all.
Yeah, Nijmegen have announced Ron de Groot, I think, on a caretaker basis for as manager for the rest of the season. Sacking Hibala was a big thing for them. It was a huge experiment, but I think to lose double figures in games on a run where they were above the relegation zone and just to fall in so suddenly, and just to have such a deep downturn of form, I think that especially when he talked a big game in the media was very disappointing, and I feel the playing staff is better than that, but let's see. I had to change on them because I honestly thought they would stay up. I thought them and Sparta would stay up because Pastour's his team's form has also downturned. Someone who is being looked at for the Maccabi Tel Aviv job by Jordi Cruyff, and someone was mentioned as probably a Dutch national team boss, and they've just gone down, and there were a lot of good young players. Maybe they just were too young and naive this season, but that will be a lazy assessment because I think they started well. They played good football, but I think just when that first knock on their confidence came, they just dropped, and NEC Hibala, after they lost 5-1 to Ajax, you could see that something wasn't wrong there. He lashed out at his team. Him and his team should share the blame, because watching that game against Ajax, they were trying to do the right thing. They were trying to press Ajax high. They were trying to send a compact shape. They were trying to lateral press Ajax to prevent them from doing build up in the wide areas. But there was no intensity to it until they went 2-0 down. And I said last week that against Excelsior, Excelsior was sort of better at scratching and clawing. They got a good 1-1 home draw against Ajax, and Jordi de Vries has been a godsend since coming from PSV, and he put in another brilliant performance at the weekend. So you really fear for them having to change the manager, and Go Ahead are going to have a complete restructure at the end of the season, because they're going to lose a lot of low knees, and there's some good players there like Sam Hendricks and De Gea, but they changed to a manager who doesn't expect to be there next season, and they brought in a lot of loan players from the Premier League, young loan players from the Premier League who were good and were easy on the eye, but they lack the true grit and true experience to get them out of the predicament. So Uronians at Pick said that he's not in fear of getting relegated. He's another person that we mentioned for the Dutch national team, who I think they'll keep their heads above the water. They've got a good team there, and it's his final few games, so they'll really back their manager in the next 2 games. So I had to change from Sparta and NEC not going down to really fearing for them, and I think they have quite a fight to get their heads above water, both of them, in the last 2 games, and I don't think they're able to do it. So it's an interesting playoff position for them.
I totally agree with your point, Chaka, about the lack of grit from the Go Ahead players, as they are loanies and they're very young, and you can see that with the lack of fight in NEC and Go Ahead, it's led to them to being bottom of the table. And I said at the start of the season that I thought NEC would struggle, but I was actually pleasantly surprised when they actually started playing some nice football, and there was some quick attacking players that helped grab some goals, even if they didn't quite deserve them on the balance of play. They still managed to pull out a draw or a win every now and then, but that just didn't continue. And then by January, these same players were out of the team. You had Quincy who left. Havani Iwi doesn't score goals. And it's led to a very, very, very poor second half of the season, defeat after defeat, and they've just dropped down like a stone into this relegation playoff. We've talked about it time and time again how NEC will end up perhaps losing even more players this summer, and it will be a tough season for them next season if they do get relegated. I think with Sparta, it's a lack of quality that's kept them up this season. Well, they may still make it for the playoffs, but James has mentioned in the past how he thinks that the 2 teams in the relegation playoffs this season may not make it through, because it's very tough to get through.
I think that will become clear when the fixtures become apparent at the end of the season, with the first rounds of the promotion playoffs from the Europa League and potential matchups. I think when that is clear, you'll be able to make an educated guess as to what might happen. To elaborate on what Chaka said about Ron de Groot taking over the reins with Patrick Pothausen, they trained the reserve team of Nijmegen, and they've been asked to take over the reins for the last 2 games. I would say, personally, in the case of Nijmegen and Rode, possibly even Go Ahead as well, I don't see why teams that are looking to change their manager, rightly so, due to the circumstances they find themselves in, why they don't look to see what talent is around in Super League. There are competent managers there that would be able to make this step up if asked. For example, Jack de Gier at Almere, Henk de Jong, who has previous experience with Cambuur Leeuwarden, now at the Graafschap. You would think that clubs that are struggling in the Eredivisie, in the case of Hibara coming from, I think it was the youth of Bayer Leverkusen to Nijmegen, a little bit of an unorthodox route. I would like to think that the three clubs that will look to change their manager might look at the talent that's in the Super League and give someone a chance to ply their trade in the Eredivisie that has built up enough experience in the Super League.
Yeah, with Hibara coming from another country, you could see he lacked certain knowledge of some of the players. Like Gregor Breinberg excelled under Enes Ferber in a defensive midfield role. He was sort of mobile, an astute tackler, good at keeping play ticking over, and he's never been played in that role under Hibala, and I think he was one of the Eridivisie's better players, and there was a lot of interest in him in the summer. And he's sort of been moved around in midfield, asked to play as an halfback in midfield when NAC switched to a back five. So I think, and just when worst got to worst, that was the captain last season and someone that they relied on, and when worst got to worst, Hibala found himself relying on youngsters, Gert Kadioglu, who are very talented, but it's not a healthy situation to be in a relegation fight. And it's just and I agree with James. There's a lot of talent in the ESTV, especially not just in managers but in players. How Vito Van Krooi hasn't been picked up is beyond me. After the season he had last season, how he wasn't picked up in the summer or in January, especially with teams from other nations from Belgium were looking at him, but how he never got picked up was beyond me. And especially, picking up some of the fallout from young PSV and young Ajax, with how Lammers had to go to the ESDVC when he was very highly rated for young PSV. It was also beyond me. That would have been a good buy. And I think NAC going down, they're going to have a look at themselves in the mirror.
Okay, so there's no Eredivisie this weekend coming, because instead we have the cup final between AZ and Vitesse. AZ come into it on the back of a win against Twente, whereas Vitesse have dipped in the last couple of games. They've had 2 defeats after what was previously a very good run of form. Who are you placing your bets on?
My prediction is that it will be a draw in 90 minutes and possibly go to the extra time and penalties. But I can see Vitesse winning the cup for the very first time in their 125-year history. I think with personalities such as Klaus Wegg, Van Wolfswinkel, Lewis Baker, and a manager in Henk Fraser, this is the first time Vitesse have reached the final in 27 years. The last time they reached the final back in 1990, they lost 1-0 to PSV. They've also lost the final on 3 separate occasions. And I think that they will take this chance as a group to win the Dutch Cup for the very first time. But I think it will be a difficult game. As you say, I said 1 against FC Twente, Vitesse lost against Feyenoord. That's why I think that the match will be a bit like a pendulum, swinging back and forth, which is why I anticipate it finishing in a draw and possibly going to extra time and penalties. But if I had to pick a winner, my prediction is that Vitesse will lift the Dutch Cup for the very first time on Sunday.
I think Van Voloswenko will be the biggest component because AZ tend to miss a lot of chances. Van Voloswenko is a very capable striker, and if he gets a proper chance, he will score. But I've always, I think, swung to the side of AZ. In recent weeks, they've started playing Vanover Ream and Dabney dos Santos again, and it's weird how last season it took them half a season to learn that those two are very integral parts of the team, and this season has taken them more than half a season to learn that those two are integral parts of the team. They found a position for Lucassen. They're playing him as a box-to-box mid. Sten Voigtens, who's played as a box-to-box mid, he's played as centre-back. They found a position for him at defensive midfield, and they've become a cohesive unit in recent weeks. But the real dilemma for Van den Brom is going with Fred Friday, who scored 2 goals against PSV, and he scored a late winner this weekend against Twente, or Venkos, to start the season well. Had a nice purple patch just before the winter break, but hasn't been firing for a while now, but is more integral to building up and having an aerial threat in the box. I really I think AZ will see it through, and because they've got more of a cohesive unit now than they had a few weeks ago. I think that they can really. I think that they're going to beat Vitesse in 90 minutes, and I see it being 2-1.
I think it's going to be a very, very close game. These two teams are quite evenly matched, form-wise. Neither's in real great form going into the game. I think it might just come down to experience, and some of the players that AZ have in their lineup, I think they might just see them through. I think Ron Vlaar, Tim Krul at the back, he's going to be big players on the day to settle the nerves. And I think playing in their first ever cup final, the weight of the expectation from Arsenal might just get to some of the Vitesse players who have never really experienced anything like that before. I think quality-wise, AZ just have a little more going forward. I think if you stop Van Wolfswinkel up front for Vitesse, goals really aren't coming from anywhere else. Rashika's not really been on fire this season. He's not really had the season he had last year. I think they'll struggle without if Van Wolfswinkel doesn't score, and if Ron Vlaar can keep him quiet. AZ should win. I think they'll be in 90 minutes as well. I can see Weghorst scoring, or if Friday plays, him scoring against the Vitesse defence.
Yeah, and also Jan Bash, who I think has 9 goals and 8 assists this season, and could be someone that could leave in the summer. He's also can be creative, and he's also a source of goals in that front three. But the thing is just how as it can miss a lot of chances and can be very wasteful, especially the youngsters. Even though they add so much to the team, there's been against Heracles, Dabney dos Santos missed 2 1-on-1s in the space of a few minutes, and he's just a player that if he adds that finishing part to his game, then he becomes a very talented player, and he becomes a very big threat to other Eredivisie teams because he's so pacey and so creative, and he's someone that can really work a team on the break. So I see AZ winning it because they have more to them, and now Van den Brom's got them as a cohesive unit, and he's found out what his best team looks like and who works together where. And Lucassen versus Nakamba in that midfield is going to be a huge battle because they're both mobile, they're very strong workmanlike, and Nakamba's got a lot technically about him, so that's going to be one of the biggest battles of the game.
Yeah, I think I can echo all three of your sentiments there. I think what James said about Vitesse with their whole history of the match, it's a huge match for the club. And originally, a couple of months ago, I thought Vitesse would win the final. But I am biased towards AZ. I'm not a true supporter, but I am very fond of the club and the squad and everything that comes with it. And I think that's maybe leaning me towards an AZ win. As Jack said, experience. I think that's gonna play a big part. AZ have experience in Europe. They've been a very good team the last few years, and there's been quite a lot of players that have stuck around as well. Whereas Vitesse is going to be totally new territory for a lot of the players. But another factor for me that comes into play is the fact that AZ make a lot of mistakes. Even Ranvelar makes a mistake, and you saw that against Rowe at home. And Excelsior at home as well, if I can remember correctly. Both times there was mistakes to give away a goal that ended up the match being a draw. And I think if AZ can keep their heads on and there can be that cohesive unit, as Chaka said, with the two defenders of Caston and Veltons, who can play midfield but are more defensive minded. But those two midfield is very important for the team. And hopefully Van Overheim also gets a start, because I think it's a great midfielder to have. And I couldn't believe that he wasn't playing in the first half of the season. He's been very limited to appearances because he was so important last season. But I think on the day, AZ will turn up. Despite the fact they haven't had the best of seasons, they can still have a very, very good performance in them. And that's why I think they'll win. But it will be a very, very close match. And I can see a few goals in it as well. Cool, should we head to a chat about the national team then? There's two candidates seemingly for the position, Henk de Carter and Dick Advocaat. Who do you three want, or do you not want either of them? As some Dutch people have been suggesting this week, that perhaps these two aren't the best candidates, but they're the two that apparently we have to decide from.
When I first read the reports that it's going to be between those two, I automatically thought about Ronjans, because this is a man who has experience managing Groningen, Heerenveen, Standard Liège, PEC Zwolle. If you compare that to when KNVB appointed Van Marwijk in 2008, Van Marwijk had only ever managed Fortuna Sittard, Dortmund and Feyenoord, and that was enough to get the KNVB's trust to give him the position. In the case of Ten Cate, he's been assistant at Barcelona, he's been assistant at Chelsea. He's more an assistant than an actual manager. And in the case of Advocaat, that if he was to be chosen, it would be his third stint and the last one since 2004. And I think the time before that was the 1994 World Cup qualifiers. Also, as well, with Van Breukelen being quite open in the meetings that he's had and the duration of how long he sat at a table with both of them in terms of what they've spoken about and those kind of things. Ron Jans is supposed to be contracted by the Dutch FA to take part in the teaching of the main training course as of next season. If I was Van Breukelen, I would try to also speak to Ron Jans, because I can see a small similarity between when Van Marwijk was appointed, with only having Fortuna Sittard, Feyenoord and Dortmund, and with Ron Jans' experience with Groningen, Heerenveen and Standard Liège, as well as doing a wonderful job for Zwolle. So I would, if I was Van Breukelen, I'd also give the time of day to Ron Jans and see if he would be, if it would be plausible for him to throw his hat in the ring before making a final decision. But if it is to be the case that it's only to be one of those two, I think you've got to be professional about it, and the experience must be decisive. And the experience that Advocaat has, even with his time at Glasgow Rangers and St. St. Petersburg, as well as knowing the Dutch national setup, having done it 2 times before, I think he would be the better of the two candidates.
Yeah, to echo James's sentiment, he also has a better knowledge of this specific playing staff, because he was assistant to Danny Blind last year in the best period of form that they had. But when we talked about this a few weeks ago, we all sort of bringing out the younger names, and we all sort of agree that Ron Jans, who had managed at Peck, who had been touted for the role a few years ago, who was going to leave Peck to do the training course, as James mentioned, would have been the best decision. The fact that he's been overlooked again is very, I think it's very weird, especially with the options that they've got. Ten Carter's been he's been an assistant at Barcelona and Chelsea and things like that. But everyone thought that Ron Jans would be the perfect perfect person because he's played against a lot of these players. He's had to set a team up against a lot of these players, and he would know. He's done very good things at Peck. Making them an established Eredivisie side. But I would also go with Advocat because he's just on the fact that he's got a better knowledge of this playing group. He's worked with them, he's seen them on the training ground, and he managed to get a better of them in that in this period of last year, especially with that win against England, where Wembley, Austria, I think, they also won there. And, Bazoer played in defensive midfield, Jansen up front, Tete, right back, and I think was Bruma and Blind at centre back, and Zoet in goal. And that was actually quite a good team, and that was probably the best team that Blind has put out in his whole tenure, and they got the most out of them. So but the form nosedived after Advocat left. That makes you think that he had a big influence on that. So if he did, you would want him in the role. But Van Bronckhorst has got a very huge job, and he has to pick the right one, because I think the Roger Smith, I call it a fiasco because no international experience, has a very faulty system that is very interesting, but a system that he's never ever used in tournament and international football. And the fact that he also turned the job down was a huge embarrassment for the KNVB. So I think getting the right one of these two, which in my opinion is Advocat, is important.
Just to add a little from some of the reports from today, North where the station that's reporting is going to be done within the next 3 days, but they also added interest in a little bit that Van Broekelen spoke to Schneider, Robin and Strickman about the appointment, and they all don't want Advocat back. That's what the report says. I think they're still a bit irked that he was assistant to Danny Blind. He left after 3 months to take a lucrative contract with Fenerbahce, and then just to walk back into the top job after just abandoning them when needed them. I think that's irked some of the players. And Football International today were saying that Louis van Gaal, who looks like he's going to be set to take some sort of CEO role, actually prefers Ten Kate. So that might come into Van Broekkelen's mind. If he's going to step down from his role, Louis van Gaal's going to come in, then Ten Kate will come in. Another thing I can say about Ron Jans is, I think if Ron Jans was having a great season with Peg Zwolle, then his name would be one of the first choices. But if you actually look at where that club is at the table right now, they're 4 points above relegation. With 2 games to go, they could get dragged into it. I think that's sort of damaged his reputation, maybe with the KNVB, who are trying to get a name in. I think Dick Advocat's the name, but whether the players actually want him back is another thing. This could be damaging going forward for some of the more experienced players who, if they don't want to play for him, might decide to retire.
Once again, thank you for listening to this week's Football-Oranje podcast. Make sure to give us a like and a subscribe, and we'll catch you again next week. Bye.